As always, a huge thank you to my channel members who are continuing to support this channel. If you wish to join, there is a link in the description. Thank you very much. Torchwood, a completely child-friendly, wholesome evening tea time show that follows our big friendly bisexual teddy bear, Captain Hunk Harkness, with his team Owen, Tosh, Yanto, and audience surrogate Gwen. These are all members of the Torchwood Institute, where they hunt down those pesky aliens that the Doctor, quite frankly, couldn't be asked to deal with himself. Fun fact for those of you that are brain dead, Torchwood is an anagram for Doctor Who, and it was the codename for Doctor Who when it returned for production in 2004. You're welcome. Torchwood was the first spin-off show of the Doctor Who universe, and it was made for post-Watershed, meaning they could show blood, violence, along with some very naughty bonking scenes. Basically, everything the writers can't put into Doctor Who, they can put in here. Wow, how epic. And Torchwood is probably one of the most inconsistent shows in the Doctor Who universe, and today I shall start my journey of ranking and reviewing every single episode, starting with Series 1. You guys know the drill by now. I break down every single episode, provide some super very meaningful input, and then rank the overall story in my juicy little tier list, ranking from perfect all the way down to god-awful. Yuck. Man, am I excited to return to Torchwood, as I do love Captain Jock Cheesecake, and it will be fun to remember whether or not this show was any good or a pure pile of stench. And of course, if you haven't already, please do subscribe. I'll be reviewing every series of the Sarah Jane Adventures, Torchwood, Class, and of course, Doctor Who. Duh. But with that out of the way, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's review Torchwood Series 1. It's October 2006. 6-year-old me was going to bed because I wasn't allowed to watch this show. And very soon you'll see why. Torchwood starts with the very first episode, Everything Changes. The episode jumps straight into this banger intro. It's short, sweet, concise, and groovy, baby. We start with a deceased body. Wow, it's instantly setting the tone here, guys. The forensic team are like, Torchwood is taking over now. We got bugger all to do with it now, lad. That's my Welsh accent, thank you very much. So yeah, I'm sensing some conflicts between the police and Torchwood. I hope this gets explored. And then the Torchwood team just comes sauntering in. God damn, look how cool these guys look, damn. Gwen is intrigued by this Torchwood, so she heads up to the car park to have a little sneak peek.
Still, at least I won't get pregnant. Never doing that again.
Could you imagine if this line of dialogue was said in modern day Doctor Who? These frauds would be going into absolute meltdown, wouldn't they? So they bring this deceased man back from the dead with the Infinity Gauntlet, and we kind of get a vague idea of what this show is going to be about.
What was it like when you died? What did you see?
Nothing. I saw nothing. Oh my god, there's nothing.
Existentialisms. And sex.
What do you think?
Damn, Jack. That was heckin' cool. So the next day, whilst on duty, Gwen gets yeeted by some men in a manly pub brawl. So she has to go see a doctor. This is where she sees Jack again. However, Gwen then ends up in this sealed-off hallway where she comes across a weevil.
Bloody hell, that is brilliant. That is just like real teeth on it.
Jesus. Guys, do you get it yet? We've seen a man being brought back from the dead, we've seen a pub brawl, and we've seen some squirty squirt blood. This show is for adults, okay? Adults. Now, whilst the blood spurts do look a little goofy, this was a bit of a shock, I think, to like every Doctor Who fan. Poor old Gwen having a strange old day. Gwen decides to follow them, where they then just disappear into thin air. Whoa. So she makes it her mission to hunt down this Torchwood lot. So she gets a one-off shift job at the pizza delivery shop. In her defense, it bloody works. Gwen descends down, and this is where we get our first look at the Torchwood base. Oh my god, it's grungy, it's grimy, it looks heckin' cool. The Torchwood gang are just trying to play a little prank on her by being all serious.
I can't do this, I'm sorry. I'm rubbish, I give up.
How long are you walking round? 3 hours?
You could see me.
They then confront her about her nosiness, and then reveal that they are indeed Torchwood.
Torchwood.
What's Torchwood?
This is Torchwood. All around you.
Jack shows Gwen the evil weevils, and it turns out that they enjoy scranning on human shite.
In the city, living in the sewers, feeding off the... Oh, it's the sewers. You can guess.
That's hella spooky, man. Captain Jack then asks Gwen to come out with him. And this is where we get our first issue with this show. This show, for some reason, was filmed in high definition in 2006. And for those of you that were born after the year 2015, high definition in 2006 was like 8K to us now. I mean, Doctor Who didn't even get HD until Easter 2009. So what's the problem with this, you might ask? Well, it does mean that things like CGI look just pretty terrible, I'm not gonna lie. Usually because it's choppy and it doesn't quite match the quality of the camera, leaving it looking very strange. And from memory, I know this only gets worse. But we will get to that. So Jack and Gwen are having a little drink, where Jack raises a very good point.
If you want evidence of aliens, how about that great big spaceship hovering over London on Christmas Day?
My boyfriend says it's like a sort of terrorism.
I like how the show pretty much takes a jab at people making their own conspiracies to ignore the truth, because that's exactly what people do. Jack explains how Torchwood works and says that no one is allowed to take any of the alien tech off of the property, proceeding to show everyone stealing alien tech from the property. Jack then admits that he's drugged Gwen with an amnesia pill.
You bastard.
Language!
Get it, guys? Because they can swear now, because it's a show for adults now. But Gwen, she's a smart little cookie. She races home to write up a quick document about who Torchwood is and who Jack is and how everyone else is. Oh wow, she'll remember this by the morning. Owen is using this boinking perfume that makes him super sexy. So this lady is going to take him home to bonk. Get it, guys? Because it's an adult show now. Yeah. Tosh uses this piece of tech to read books or something, and Suzie wants to resurrect the fly with the Infinity Gauntlet.
You want to have a go, do you? You want to have a go? Come on, mate.
Get it, guys? It's an adult show. Yanto somehow hacks Gwen's Microsoft Word and deletes her document. However will she remember? Jack dramatically looks on across the city for some reason. And the next day, Gwen's got all this memory loss, but luckily she sees a picture of the Wales Millennium Centre, so she goes for a little visit. This is where she bumps into Suzie.
There, that's better.
Wait, what? Susie's the murderer?
Torchwood's going to find out by morning, but I'll be gone.
Don't worry though, guys, because a PNG of Captain Jack rises from the ground.
And that's why the perception filter isn't going to work on me.
Oh no, John!
We're down the gun.
Yes, John! Oh dear! Bloody hell, poor Gwen! Jack explains to Gwen, that he is immortal and he can't die. And now he wants to give Gwen a job because Torchwood needs to do more to help. And Gwen says, aye, sure thing, Captain. I love you so much, LA Lake. And then the episode ends. Wowee. So, my thoughts on the episode. Apart from a few dodgy CGI clips and PNGs, I think this is a pretty good episode. Torchwood is established pretty well and it kicks the series off nicely. Gwen is the perfect audience surrogate and we get an inclination that not everything is running as smoothly as it seems. There's a good amount of mystery built throughout this episode. What is the importance of this glove? How did Jack end up here? Who are the others that work for Torchwood? What else happens in Cardiff because of the rift? Jesus, consider me intrigued and wanting to come back for episode 2. There's not really too much for me to nitpick here, so I don't know if I'm being generous or not, but I'm going to put this episode in great, I think. It's pretty good. It's a pretty solid start. Day 1. Well, guys, this episode aired straight after the first on the 22nd of October 2006. 19 years ago.
Torchwood. Outside the government, beyond the police.
Oh yeah, I forgot about this intro. Like, I get it, it's summarising the show, but I just really hate it when it does this. It does it in Sarah Jane Adventures as well. I don't like it. The episode starts with Gwen and her boyfriend Reese on a little date when big orange meteor comes crashing down.
I've got to go to work.
Oh no. Oh no.
Hi again. It's me.
Well, I thought I was done with this man. This episode is so 2000s coded with its super high-tech van. I mean, damn, look at these funky LED strip lights. How futuristic. The gang head to the crash site where Gwen is stopped by the army.
Now, first of all, she's no little girl. From where I'm standing, all the right curves in all the right places.
Yeah, Jack, I'm not gonna lie, it helps that you're an attractive man, because if this man said it, yeah, he would be seen as a right creep, wouldn't he?
Make yourself useful, sweetheart. Pass us the big chisel from the toolbox, not sweet cheeks.
So Gwen responds to Owen's sexist comment by launching a chisel at a meteorite. Yeah, saying that out loud just made me sound fucking mental, didn't it? But it unleashes this sexy purple gas. This sequence reaffirms that Gwen is trying to settle in and is making a lot of mistakes. That's just because she's the new girl. We cut to this woman down an alleyway where she then gets possessed by the sexy purple gas. I'll tell you what, guys, this turns her into a right horn dog.
I don't even know your name.
Oh, oh God, oh dear, my virgin eyes. Well, 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 Mr. Chibnall, you've really written a sex monster into the Doctor Who universe. And we thought Moffat was the one-handed writer. Jesus. This episode is about a climax monster. Well, the gang are then informed of this death, so they go and investigate. Bald Bouncer Man explains that whilst he was innocently watching the CCTV footage, he saw that upon climax, the man turned to dust. Well, I mean, Jack puts it better.
Oh my god. He just...
Came and went.
Damn. A funny line written by Chris Chibnall. Who would have thunk it? But seriously, I don't think any of us ever thought we'd see a man pleasuring himself in the Doctor Who universe. Things get pretty weird around here. There is, however, this really lovely conversation in the Torchwood base, in which they all discuss how working for Torchwood means you have no time for anything else, which I think is a bit of a shock to Gwen, seeing as she has such a lovely man at home. I'm sure this will not be a big issue throughout the series. I also really like that the software they use to get an ID match doesn't work, because the CCTV footage is too low res. So many times we see a TV show be able to make a match from low res CCTV footage, somehow having the ability to make a crystal clear image when zooming in.
Oh fuck, it's me. Oh yeah, it is. Fuck, I did do that.
Pisses me off. So Organism Alien Girl gets blue balls and decides she needs to go to Boomtown again. Yeah, not before Torchwood intercept. She tries to escape, but luckily Owen has this magic pebble. So they've captured her, and Gwen is tasked with interrogating this alien.
Where are you from and why are you trying to invade Earth? Because you can forget about enslaving us.
I quite like the fact that Gwen, whilst not having a clue what she's doing, is realising how surreal and ridiculous this all sounds. So Alien Girl starts getting thrown around or something. This is where Gwen decides to open the door. Oh, Gwen, for fuck's sake, man. Yeah, this is really starting to come across like Chris Chibnall's little fantasy, innit? We get a little bit more of an insight to Owen's character, him being a bit of a dick.
Way to go, newbie. That is what I call a methodical investigation. Jesus.
We should be helping her. She's not some lab rat.
Who's for Chinese?
Fucking Chinese! It's fucking heavy!
The gang sit around munching their scran. This is where they reveal to Gwen that they have no idea who Captain Jack is.
What are we doing having Chinese while a girl fights for her life?
I like that they focus on the fact that Jack appears not to be bothered by the severity of the situation. There's lives at risk, and all he cares about is the aliens. And Gwen continuously questions him on this. And I think slowly but surely, Jack does start to realise this.
Cheeky bitch took my swipe card.
Yeah, this did get a giggle out of me, I can't lie. So the bonking alien escapes, and after some terrible cinematography, she picks up the Doctor's hand.
Put it down! That's worthless to anyone but me!
What a really strange and stupid thing to say to a person who's threatening to destroy it.
Now give me the jar.
No!
Wow, I did not see that one coming.
Put out an APB. Woman possessed by gas knobbing fellas to death.
That's another funny Chibs line. That's a hat trick. Anyway, so Owen explains that the woman is fighting the alien inside her, and eventually she's gonna combust. A fat nut, sorry. So Gucci Rub Alien goes to her ex-boyfriend's house.
Did you ever love me?
No.
That's pretty based. But no surprise, he gets turned to ash. Hornball Alien then goes to a sperm donor clinic because that's where she works or something. Anytime I hear this punch sound effect being used unironically, it makes me super angry. Grr. So after she's murdered a whole load of men, what is the conclusion to this absolute slob sesh? Well, Jack kisses her to make her feel alive because he has lots of life in him. Okay. The purple sex gas leaves the girl, gets trapped in the pebble shield, and the day is saved. Lots of men are dead, by the way. And then Gwen kisses Jack? Why? Why does she do that? This makes no sense. So this episode screams, look, this is adult Doctor Who. We have sex monsters and swearing and things. I think the reveal that this girl worked in a sperm bank should have been revealed a lot sooner for this climax. No pun intended, to make any sense. And I think even though this show is for adults, you know, just in case that wasn't clear, it is still quite uncomfortable to watch. Why Gwen kisses Jack is absolutely beyond me. Owen comes across like a right spanner, and I am yet to still get to know anything about him and Tosh. Jack being insensitive and downright stupid at times is irritating, and the resolution is pretty damn stupid. I will say this, I don't think this episode is as bad as what people make out. Yes, it's not good, by any means, but it's a damn sight better than most of the other drivel that Chris Chibnall has written in this Doctor Who universe, let's be bloody honest. Guys, I am putting this episode in stinky because I just don't want to watch it again. No thanks. Ghost Machine. The intro to this episode is hella intense. There's all this running, something's happening, this is possibly some of the worst cinematography I've ever seen. I get it, it's an action scene, but what is with all the fucking zooms, man? Chill out! But what are the gang looking for?
Suspect's male wearing a hoodie.
Oh, nice one, Tosh. Yeah, that narrows it down to about, I don't know, 5 million people in London. Well, never mind, guys, he got away, but he left behind an alien gizmo. All of a sudden, Gwen ends up in another time where she's approached by Ghost Boy?
Can you hear me?
Want to join my free gift card giveaway?
Gwen is hella spooked. So the Torchwood gang find the details of this little boy, and they find him straight away from a phone book.
74 Brineron Terrace, Newtown. He's in the phone book.
That's lucky, isn't it? So they go and pay this Thomas a visit.
She was right, though. We were in all last night. We wouldn't have seen anything.
Oh, he's just a cute little old man, isn't he? He's just a cute little old man. However, he explains that he was evacuated in the war and was moved to the countryside, somehow ended up in Cardiff. We see the first glimpse of Gwen's new job starting to take its toll on Rhys, as Gwen says, "I'm not going to be coming home today. Again. Hold that L." The gang then decide they need to try and locate the robber from the start of the episode. His name's Bernie, and everyone really hates him.
And he's a robbing little bastard who's not setting a foot in this house till he pays me the 50 quid he owes me.
Wouldn't piss on him if he was on fire.
Jack has a go at them for standing around eating pasties after giving up looking for Bernie. But this time Owen has hold of the alien gizmo, and as they're heading back, it sends him back in time too. This scene, whilst it looks cheap, is pretty harrowing. Owen witnesses this man, Ed Morgan, do unspeakable things to this woman, and even witnesses her getting game-ended. Jack then gives Gwen some firearms training, and things get strangely sexual.
Looking along your shoulder, down your arm. Breathe in.
I don't know why this is happening. This literally has no impact on the story. What is the point of this scene? Gwen then goes home, but she's taken the alien MacGuffin with her. Then she gets transported back to seeing her and Rhys, and she gets reminded of how great their relationship is. Yeah, I'll teach you for backing it up on Jack, you hornball. Owen almost becomes obsessed with tracking down this Arthur Morgan bloke, but however, he does it successfully. There's this really good scene in which Owen grills Ed about the murder.
Died in 63. Is he?
We see Ed get more uncomfortable as Owen whispers everything is done in a sinister tone. Oh yeah, love it.
I know what happened under the bridge that night.
It's a lovely little bit of redemption for Owen, I think. All we know of him so far is that, he likes being a bit of a dick, and he also likes using it. However, he's now seen a woman in danger and has taken it upon himself to get justice. I respect it. Anyway, this gets interrupted when Arthur Morgan throws him out, but then Owen sees Bernie just chilling in the park.
I'm gonna bloody kill you. Why they call you Bernie?
This is the most accurate representation of every male friendship I've ever seen. Bernie explains that he's been seeing things too, and confesses that there's a whole other half to this MacGuffin. So the gang absolutely rob him and leave.
When?
For fuck's sakes. It's so goofy, man. So yeah, the other half shows the future. This is where we get to the climax of the episode. Oh, and that terrible cinematography comes back too. Just lovely. For some reason, Arthur Morgan is heading over to Bernie's house with a knife. Like, seriously, this is not a threat, man. How about you guys just walk away? That's alright though, because the Torchwood team intervene. Owen gets a little bit heated, so Gwen takes the knife off of him.
I knew you'd come for me.
I'm sorry. That was the goofiest death scene I have ever seen. That was absolutely appalling. And the ending to this episode is basically the gang decides to just lock away the alien gizmo, as Gwen now thinks she's a murderer. I don't even know what I've just witnessed. So, my thoughts on the episode. I like the demonstrations of how the alien gizmo works, taking them into the past, seeing some pretty spooky things. I also like the fact that there was no significant alien or alien threat, but more of an insight as to what Torchwood deal with on a day-to-day basis. Some alien tech's fallen through the rift, we have to go recover it. This is their job. There's no world-ending destruction or aliens wanting to take over Earth like in the Sarah Jane Adventures, and it explores some pretty dark themes. And I still found this episode entertaining despite it having some Torchwood tropes that I just really don't like. Random zoomy-woomy camera work. This series being overly sexualized and borderline creepy for absolutely no reason. Well, we know the reason. Oh, it's an adult show. Adult show. Enjoy the sex, please. The death of Arthur Morgan was absolutely terrible, but this episode did explore Owen further, showing his obsessive nature and that he's not a complete knob, I guess. I don't know. I think this episode is actually underrated. I don't think it's too bad. It's just got some funny moments in it. So guess what? I'm going to put this episode in good. Yeah, good. So it's time for another chiptacular episode. His second episode of Torchwood. Now, seeing as his first one was a borderline fantasy, let's hope he's got it out of his system. Oh. Cyberwoman. Okay. So the gang are shooting some b-ball outside of the school, but Yanto is here looking all serious and stuff. The way Jack throws the ball at him as they all leave would indicate that Yanto isn't really part of the team. He's kind of like that one guy in your friendship group that still uses Snapchat and records a story of you for an unnecessarily long amount of time. But whilst the gang are out, a mysterious man arrives at the Torchwood base. Yanto takes him even further down to reveal the Cyberwoman! The guitar music is just so hilarious. It's so bad. But this incredibly sexualized Cyberman is revealed to us. Yeah, alright mate, chill out, yeah. Ah, Chris. That's 2 for 2. You've definitely outdone Moffat for your horniness, I'll tell you that now. Sure, I could spend the next 20 minutes taking the piss out of this Cyberwoman design and her metal boobies, but it has been done to death at this point. So basically it's explained that the Cybermen were rushing the process of transformation, but somehow they had time to design these breastplates and skimpy underwear? Okay. It is a bit of a letdown because the premise is seriously dark and could make for an insane story, but looking at this...
There's also bare flesh.
Oh God, it just completely takes away from it. So the plan is for them to turn her back into a human. Nothing at all is going to go wrong or whatsoever. But the gang are returning from their little night out and Yanto has to hide the Cyber Lady. Unfortunately for Yanto though, there's still some Cyberman in this Cyberwoman and she strangles mysterious Dr. Man. It's about to go tits up. Yeah, you see what I mean? HD in 2006 doesn't work with this CGI. It looks terrible. Can the gang not hear any of this? Seriously? The power to the base starts fluctuating, so Yanto's like, there's a bit of dodgy cabling in there. Let me go check. Thank you. He goes down to discover that his robot lady friend has game-ended the poor Dr. Man.
What have you done? You've killed an innocent man.
It's all right.
It's not all right.
He attempts to act his heart out, but it's just not very good.
You've ruined everything now.
Did you just assault your girlfriend? All because she violently murdered an innocent man who was trying to help her? Cancelled! I will say, though, the prosthetics look absolutely nuts. Love that. Absolutely. It's too graphic. Yanto says, "Oi, don't do anything and stay still," which she immediately ignores, and then she just starts charging herself. Women. Am I right, gamers? Just want to emphasise that was a joke. So the gang are now getting a little bit too suspicious, so they go and investigate. They find the CCTV footage of Yanto being a naughty little boy. So Gwen and Owen find the machine and turn it off. And everyone's reaction to finding out that this was a working cyber conversion unit is actually great.
But we have found parts of a cyber conversion unit fully powered up and working.
This is no time to be kidding around, Owen.
I'm deadly serious.
There's a real sense of threat here due to the recent events of Doomsday. It genuinely would be terrifying if it wasn't for goofy Cyber Lady. The stakes are raised when Cyber Lady puts Gwen in the conversion unit, so Tosh has to turn off the power to the entire base, putting the place in lockdown. Jack holds Yanto at gunpoint where Yanto says,
When did you last ask me anything about my life?
The Cyberwoman then interrupts to do a reenactment of what I do in the mirror every single morning.
I am disgusting.
She then goes and rejects Yanto.
Then we are not compatible.
Then Jack is all like, "Yeah, we're gonna blow this place to the ground." Gwen and Owen hide in this dead body fridge, and then they start kissing. For fuck's sake, why? And then Jack and Yanto start kissing too. What the fuck is happening? And thank the Lord, Owen's phone interrupts this stupid moment, and then he stabs Cyber Lady. Guys, I literally wrote in my script, Jack throws barbecue sauce on Cyber Female, but then he literally says,
What is that stuff? What kind of barbecue sauce?
Alright, fine. I'm clearly not needed for my hilarious input. Take it away, Jack. Anyway, it's a terrible CGI pterodactyl eats the cyber lady. So Yanto goes into complete meltdown. We're not done there yet, boys and girls. Pizza delivery girl arrives and walks straight into the Torchwood base, where it turns out the cyber bitch is still alive, by the way.
Why won't you die?
Jack holds Yanto at gunpoint again, and they have this really poorly acted conversation. They're supposed to be angry and having a moment. It's not great.
You hid yourself from us.
You can't order me to do that.
You execute her or I'll execute you both.
I won't do it, but you're the biggest monster of all.
But in the biggest twist, it turns out that the cyber lass completed a brain transplant on the delivery girl so that Yanto could have his woman back as a human. That's actually one hell of a twist, to be fair. I did not know that happened. That was quite a good twist. They have a conversation where they reminisce, and Yanto pulls some really horrendous crime faces, and then the gang just come in and shoot her, just absolutely eviscerate her. And then literally the very next scene is Yanto cleaning up the place. All is forgiven. The episode ends. Do you know what? The story itself isn't bad. I know. Shock. However, it is everything else about this episode that completely lets it down. The Cyberwoman just honestly is borderline insulting. The cinematography is just horrendous. Does no one on this production team own a fucking tripod? The editing as well is atrocious. I believe the editing alone is the most damaging thing to this series. The way this show is edited, it's like it's been done by a 17-year-old trying to be edgy. Look at these motion blur zooms and the black and white filters, wow. The editing combined with the awful cinematography and the unbearable soundtrack. I usually quite like the soundtrack in Torchwood, but this episode, it was unbelievably annoying. The random kissing between Gwen and Owen and Jack and Yanto is just a no. We get it. It's an adult show. This had all of the foundations and potential to be one of the best Torchwood episodes, with how truly unsettling this could have been. The last survivor of the Battle of Canary Wharf was let loose in the Torchwood base. God, that's a fucking incredible premise. But it's been let down by all the things I just listed. I think what also really harms this story is the fact that Yanto having a love interest is never mentioned. This series seems to focus on one character at a time. Even if Yanto just mentioned in the first few episodes, like, oh, I had a partner who died during the Battle of Canary Wharf. I think this would have made this episode make more sense, or at least shown some of his secretive behaviour. Again, this is Chibnall we're talking about, right? It's hardly a shock that this episode has failed. This story is definitely not as bad as everyone makes out, because I think story-wise, it is good, but this episode is a prime example of how cinematography, editing, and execution is a huge factor into whether or not a piece of media is successful. I am putting this episode, guys, in Stinky Winky. Small worlds.
Torchwood. Outside the government.
Yeah, we get it. Little old lady is wandering through the forest as she comes across these little fairies that just turn into these horrible CGI goblins. Ew. Captain Jack is lying in his bed, looking like every 38-year-old that still uses Snapchat, pretending not to flex their muscles on their story. That was a very specific analogy there, but I think you guys get what I mean. But he's having some night terrors about his old friends choking on rose petals. How spooky. But you can tell it was a long time ago because it has this awful sepia effect on it. There's this creepy man sitting outside of a school.
I promised your mum I'd fed you, so get in the car.
Oh dear. Oh great, yeah, now he's trying to kidnap her. That's disgusting. But don't worry guys, terrible POV camera drone comes to save the day. By the way, this episode heavily relies on POV shots to avoid using CGI. Now usually I would complain, but actively avoiding CGI is probably the best idea for this episode. The old lady from earlier is showing off her terrible photography, but Jack knows that these fairies, they ain't so cute. The nonce from earlier is now walking through a market where he starts choking on rose petals too. Super sexy. So to get away from these goblins, he gets himself arrested.
Chris, Russell!
Jack and Gwen go to old lady's house where Gwen finds an old picture of Jack, but Jack says, yeah, that's my dad, you silly goofball. And we find out that his dad, an old lady, used to bonk. Creepy man heads to the police station where we hear one of the most uncomfortable lines of dialogue I've ever heard from a TV show.
It's little girls. It's their little bodies. It's their little smiles.
At least he's demanding himself to be locked up. That's where he belongs. The gang head to the creepy woods to try and find these goblins, and it's absolutely plagued with even more terrible POV shots. Honestly, there's so much, and most of them don't even make sense. The goblin fairy things eventually catch up to Nancy Man. Torch would investigate the body, and Gwen pulls out all of these rose petals from his mouth, where we get this repeated thud sound. Something's telling me that Jack knows something about these rose petals.
Never seen anything like that before.
I have.
Oh, see? Thanks to the really subtle editing, I was able to figure that out myself. Later that night, old lady gets spooked by one of the goblins, so she calls Jack to help. But by the time Jack arrives, she's been game-ended. And this is after the longest, most dramatic death scene I've ever seen. Gwen always knew that it wasn't Jack's dad that was bonking the old lady. It was him. And Jack cries. But there's no time for mourning. Jack needs to explain where he saw these rose petals before. We get this old shot of a train with that sepia effect, which then cuts to this clear, high-definition picture, which just doesn't go together. Windows Movie Maker in 2006 had an old film and sepia effect that could have been put on top and made this whole scene look more believable. However, I will say that this scene is pretty damn good. All these men were happy and lively. They go for a tunnel and come out to silence. All of the men on the train have been game-ended. And the only thing that's in colour are the rose petals coming out of their mouth. Oh, that's some good stuff right there. Gwen gets home to find her crib absolutely vandalised by those pesky goblins. This is where we find out that these goblins have attached themselves to this little girl.
No wonder your dad left when you were a baby. You must have seen what was coming.
Oh, that's lovely. Why is every man in this show just a complete arse? So not only was she almost kidnapped, her dad is a complete dick, and she's getting bullied at school. There's no wonder these goblins are going absolutely skits. There's this really, truly just awful scene where these little girls are kicking this little girl, and the goblins make it all windy and stuff. Honestly, it's just littered with terrible child acting and so many POV shots. And basically nothing comes of it. Later on, the little girl discovers that her dad has built a fence in the garden. That's where her goblin friends like to chillax. So she gets proper pissed off by this. Oh! Big mistake, buckaroo. Uh-oh, terrible CGI goblins crash the party. Jesus, he's getting fisted. So yeah, the dad gets game-ended. The little girl then goes off and explains that these goblins can cause storms and cause the end of the world. And the goblins are like, let us take her, let us take her. So Jack says, okay, fine, off you pop, because it's the only way the world will survive. The little girl then goes gallivanting away with the goblins. Jesus, this poor woman has just lost her husband and her child in the matter of minutes. And the gang are pretty pissed off at Jack about this, but I suppose it just hammers down the tough decisions Jack has to make sometimes to protect the world. The episode ends with Gwen zooming in on a blurry picture of the goblins and it revealing the little girl's face on one of them. Jesus Christ. This story is just meh. Like, the premise is good, but this episode doesn't really amount to anything, other than the fact that these goblins just game-ended a load of people and then just took the girl away anyway. The CGI has, of course, aged absolutely terribly, and the POV shots are an absolute eyesore. The only really good thing about this episode was watching this man lose his mind and then get game-ended. Big thumbs up. I'm not really sure on the relevance of this old woman and this love story, but maybe it comes up later. I genuinely cannot remember. I think this episode is just okay, so I guess I'm going to put it in okay. Ugh. Do you mind? Do you want to back up a little bit? You've interrupted me editing my brand new Torchwood video. Now, seeing as you're here, right, I might as well just excite you with what's to come on this channel throughout this year. Bingo, look at this list. Holy moly. We've got all of the series of Torchwood to do. We've got all of the series of Sarah Jane Adventures, and of course, Doctor Who Season 2, because it could possibly be the last season of Doctor Who. My channel's going to die. That's not the reason I'm making this video today, though, guys. I sometimes sit here and take a look at my channel and, you know, sometimes I reflect back. I like to look back at the first project I ever did, ranking and reviewing every episode from the Russell T Davies era. That video was stuck at 25 views for the first 2 days, and I genuinely thought, oh my god, I have spent the last 5 months making this video and it's flopped. It then kind of blew up. Literally, my first ever project was where I peaked. Nice one. However, if you look back at that video, I hadn't quite found my formula yet. If you see it, you can kind of see I'm just trying to find my feet a little bit. In the first series of Doctor Who that I review, I go into very little detail. As the video goes on, you can see me getting into more and more detail, making more cracking hilarious jokes. But as the overall project got to the Stephen Moffat era, you can see that I get increasingly more stressed and frustrated. Also, having to watch the Chibnall era really didn't help that either, to be honest. I was criticised for my review on the Stephen Moffat era, and rightly so. The problem with that video is I had put a time schedule on myself to get these videos up. So what that meant is I was watching upwards of 5 to 6 episodes of Doctor Who every single night, whilst writing the script and editing the other episodes all at the same time. It looked like this. So basically this resulted in me not elaborating enough at times, and sometimes I also contradicted myself, and sometimes being just a tad bit harsh on that era, just a little bit. I didn't quite get across my love for the Stephen Moffat era, and that frustrates me just a tad. I think it's quite evident that my bias towards the Russell T Davies era really shows in that video as well. Unfortunately, that era does have such a hold over me. I'm not gonna lie, I made this channel to gush about the Russell T Davies era. That was kind of what I wanted to do. Also, when I made my Russell T Davies era review video, that was around the time that the 60th anniversary specials hadn't been released yet, so it was full of excitement. And let's be honest, now that Russell T Davies 2 is well underway, I think it's safe to say it hasn't quite lived up to expectations. And listen, I will always defend this show from people who just get angry at it for the complete wrong reasons. Those wrong reasons being that anyone who isn't white or straight being on the show is a problem. If that's your stance, you're an idiot. However, I can't defend the show having poor writing at times and even pushing that preachy boundary just a tad. I think Russell really didn't get off to the best of starts with his era. I mean, from that Children in Need special to the last 10 minutes of The Star Beast, it wasn't great. And also starting season 1 with an episode like Space Babies, it hasn't helped this show at all. But I'm going to be doing a whole video on that separately. My main point is now that the excitement has calmed down, now that I'm not on such a time constraint, I'm going to be making the entire 5.5 hour video again, from scratch, all the way from series 1 to The Power of the Doctor, all over again. Yay. It will be my biggest project ever. Listen, it's gonna take me well over a year, if not pushing 2 years to make overall. This will not take away from any content I already have planned, because that's my priority. But in my spare time, I will get to work on this project, and I want it to be one of the best videos I've ever made. And it could possibly be my last video on Doctor Who, depending on what happens with it. And I've done the calculations. Let's say, for instance, I spend 3 minutes talking about every episode. That would result in the video itself being 13 hours long. 13 hours. The video is going to be longer than 13 hours. That's actually a guarantee at this point. I'm going to go into depth on every single episode. Granted, I do a lot of plot breakdown because a lot of my reviews are more just joking at the show more than it is proper critical review. We have so many YouTubers in this community that do that. I don't need to be going, the direction from Graham Harper analyzes and extracts the emotion from Dave Tech. Don't need to do all that. You have dedicated channels in this community to do that. As well as that, you have some very overly positive YouTube channels like Doctor Who Fan 91. He's a contagious guy. I love watching him because he's so positive. I don't always agree with everything he says, just like he probably doesn't agree with things I say, but I respect his love for the show and his dedication to the classic era. Nuts. I digress. I'm waffling. So yes, I'm working on the entire project all over again. It caused me so much stress the first time that I want to completely eradicate that and make a banging video. But this is where my memberships do come in to help, because as well as that, you guys are now allowing me to take days off of work so that I can spend time working on the channel. Taking time off work does have an effect on income. So the memberships that you guys are helping with actually fund me taking that time off work to work on the channel. And hopefully going forward, if more of you are willing to join, I can do more of that. meaning I can spend more time on making heckin' epic videos. You guys have absolutely smashed it so far. The channel is doing well, and I can't thank you guys enough for supporting me. Your lovely comments mean the world, and the whole point of this channel is to share my love for Doctor Who, and I feel like that 5.5 hour video didn't do it justice. I think I got way too critical towards the middle, so I want to just completely go over it again and actually share what I love about the show. That's what you guys want. I can't say I'll do that for the Chibnall era. That will just never change. I'm sorry. I try and find the good in the Chibs, but I can't. I really can't. I'm sorry. These are very uncertain times for Doctor Who. We've still got season 2 to come. God knows what's going to happen after that. But this 13 to 15 hour video I'm going to make could be my swan song to Doctor Who. So I want to make it a proper special video. It's a long way off, but don't worry guys. We've got plenty of content to come soon. Hooray. Anyway, I'm going to get back to work now. Much love. See you later. Bye. CountryCide. Oh, shit. Woman, who's definitely obviously going to die, is driving through the countryside where she comes across a dead body in the road. Oh snap, she's been pranked. It isn't even a dead body, I swear. Oh dear, oh man. What an intro. This is definitely the scariest one by far. I love it. Wait, hang on. Written by Chris Chibnall? What? This is his 3rd episode. Maybe it's the 3rd time lucky, I suppose. The gang are straight on it, believing that there's some alien funny business going on. So they set up camp Red Dead Redemption 2 style. There's a conversation in which the gang discuss who their last kiss was with. Didn't realise we were in year 8, guys. Jesus, grow up a little bit, yeah? Tosh says it was Owen because of some mistletoe a few Christmases ago, but Owen confesses that his last kiss was with Gwen.
Gwen? Actually?
Tosh seems to take offence to this, telling us that she likes Owen now.
Didn't take you long to get your feet under the table. What?
Okay, sure. Owen and Gwen then head into the woods where they get into an argument.
When was the last time you came so hard and so long forgot where you are?
Why is it whenever Chris Chibnall writes an episode, it's got the most jarring sexual stuff in it? Like, I could picture him writing this at his desk at like 2 a.m. and it isn't a pretty picture, I'll tell you that. It gets interrupted by someone watching them through the trees. Gwen, chill out. What are you doing? What are you doing? Gwen and Owen then find this skinned body. Yeah, I can't show this because I want my money, please. The gang then have their Range Rover stolen, but luckily they can track it, which leads them to this spooky house. The setting is absolutely incredible. They're looking around this big spooky house where they find this body. Yeah, I have to blur this as well. Holy moly, this is bloody intense, I'll tell you that. Meanwhile, Tosh and Yanto are exploring the other house where they walk away from each other. And guess what happens?
Tosh!
What a shock! This right here is exactly what I mean by this series having consistently bad editing. What is this? Who put that shot together? Like, yes, it doesn't really take away from the story, but it's so jarring. However, it is made up for by this next shot. Pun is intended, by the way. Oh, shit!
Gwen!
Owen is forced to take action. He removes the pellets, and my god, the sexual tension is pretty damn high in this scene. But I will say, Owen is literally operating on her and saving her, and I guess this adds a bit more justification as to why Gwen wants to bonk him, I guess. The guy that shot Gwen explains that these things are insanely strong, and definitely not human. Tosh and Yanto are locked up in a basement somewhere, where Yanto cries some more about not being protected.
It's worth the risk to protect people.
And who protects us?
Listen, Yanto, mate, I'm really starting to think this job isn't for you. You seem to take everything pretty terribly. They then find this fridge full of body parts. This is where they realise we're food, innit, fam? Lady with a shotgun comes into the room.
I've been sent to collect you. I've got to take you to them.
Yeah, something tells me she ain't a goodie. Jack then finds a wounded man. Fucking hell, what is happening?
Tell us what these creatures are. Do they look like us?
How else are we gonna look?
Oh my god, they are human. Jesus, this is unsettling. The performance from Owen Teale is actually brilliant.
You see, meat has to be tenderized first.
Oh, holy shit, this is so disturbing. Luckily, Tosh manages to escape as she goes to hide in the woods. For some reason, every time Tosh escapes, she somehow keeps stopping to wait for him to catch up. Cannibal Man eventually catches up, but just when Tosh is about to be game-ended, Owen saves her. But of course, the policemen he's with are in on it too.
That'd be a laugh, wouldn't it? My own uncle.
Yep, so now they've all been captured. Isn't that great? And Yanto is about to have his throat tampered with, shall we say. Yeah, so Jack shows up and saves the day by shooting everyone. It was really poorly shot and put together, but hey, the day is saved, I guess. The ending to this episode, oh man, Gwen attempts to question him.
Tell me, I need to know why!
It's enough. Because it made me happy. Come on.
Oh my god, it's so sinister. Gwen has realised that the worst monster she would ever see working for Torchwood is a human. Further pushing the narrative that the human race is the biggest monster of them all. Very, very true. The police arrive and arrest everyone, and that is the end of that. Oh, and Owen and Gwen are now having an affair. I swear, Chris Chibnall has like a raging hard-on for these two. Torchwood has been trying to flex that it's an adult show for this entire series, but this episode utilises that absolutely perfectly. The violence and gore perfectly fits how twisted and evil these villains are, and it doesn't ever feel like it's going over the top just for the sake of it. The setting is genuinely terrifying, and the performances from all of the cannibals was top notch. Yes, the resolution was very Chibnall-y in the fact that it was over in like a minute and a half. I really wish this episode was a two-parter. I would have loved to have seen this developed even more, but hey, I've got to take what I can get, alright? This is literally the best we're going to get from the Chebs. So yes, guys, I am putting this episode in bloody great. Greeks bearing gifts. I really don't like when Torchwood goes back in time because I just think it looks really cheap. Okay, what is happening here? A big ball of light appears in the forest and the girl walks up to it.
Do whores have prayers?
Honestly, I have no idea what's happening. Hang on a minute. That's the girl who just got game ended. We're now seeing Owen and Gwen's relationship blossoming as they can't stop flirting with each other, even to the point where their antics unplug Tosh's computer, and rightfully, she gets upset by this.
That's a bit of a mouthful.
Sorry, private joke.
Listen, I get that you guys are having your cute little affair, right? But this ain't making me root for your romance.
Sometimes I think even that stick up your arse has got to stick up its arse.
No, Owen, you're just being a massive bellend. I genuinely feel bad for Tosh. These last few episodes, we've just seen her getting absolutely bullied by the rest of this team, and I'm not having it. She actually doesn't do anything wrong, besides from, oh, she's a bit of a nerd. We don't really know much about her character, but what we do know, she works bloody hard, so knock it off. So Tosh decides to drink her troubles away when a mysterious blonde woman comes up to her in the bar, and this mysterious woman then tells Tosh everything she knows about her.
Born in London 1975, moved to Osaka when you were 2, then back to the UK in 1986.
And what is the outcome of this? Well, they have sex, of course, because it's Torchwood. Of course they're going to have sex. Literally everyone in this show just has sex with everything and anything at this point. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's get back to the bar. Mysterious woman gives Tosh a necklace that makes her hear everyone's thoughts.
You're thinking that I want to kiss you.
Wow, shock horror. Of course she does. Then Tosh brings the necklace into work where she can hear everyone's thoughts. And by everyone, I mean Owen and Gwen talking non-stop about boinking each other.
I can smell Owen. I can smell him on me after that shag in his car this morning.
I think when she ran her tongue across my teeth, I should have worn different jeans.
I wondered if I could get Owen to come down to the vault. No.
So now Tosh knows about the affair. She decides to take the necklace back to Mysterious Lady because she's had enough. But somehow it ends up with them, yes, you guessed it, rubbing fronts. There's all these really strange edits and whooshes. Like, I really don't understand what this adds to the story. Tosh then takes the necklace into the high street so she can try and get used to it a bit more. This is where she homes in on Mysterious Man.
I'm gonna kill them. Lay their bodies out afterwards and lie next to them.
Oh dear. And like an absolute amateur, the man walks into his family's house, leaving the door wide open, so that just when he's about to game end them with a shotgun, all it would have taken was for you to close the damn front door, you knob. In his defence though, right, his ex-wife and his kids seem to be right bellends, to be fair. We get some more of Owen and Gwen having chemistry.
Plodders.
The leg bone's connected
Stop
to
singing.
the hip bone.
Please stop.
The hip bone's connected to
anything.
And Jack has a little conversation with Tosh, but I think he's getting suspicious of her.
It's ongoing.
Gonna dismantle it?
Like I said, it's ongoing.
Get my boss.
Fucking hell. I have never jumped and laughed at the same time. Wait a minute. Wasn't this the alien that Sarah Jane was playing with in her front garden? Was Sarah bonking this alien? So Tosh offers to take the alien to Torchwood so that they can help send her home, but Alien Woman declines.
Let me take you to Torchwood. Because the transporter get you back home. You won't.
Owen is trying to find out what's happened to this skeleton that they found earlier on in the episode, whilst there's these dramatic shots of Jack looking out at London for some reason. I don't know why they keep doing this. Tosh is crying and says,
Tell them what to do. Get me into Torchwood.
Wait a minute, didn't she already offer you that? And you said no. What? So she gets into the Torchwood base and Jack's like, not our queen. But she's gone there for her transporter, so she holds Tosh at knife point, in which Jack then gives her the transporter, but he recalibrated the coordinates to send her to the sun. Okay, when and how did he know to do that? Okay, whatever. Okay. Anyway, that's the end of the episode, right? This episode is fine, I guess. Like, there's nothing, like, super bad about it. The one thing I do really hate, however, is the way that this show is edited. The random speed up and whoosh shots and sound effect. It's just, it adds absolutely nothing, and I don't know why they keep doing it. The story was meh. I like that we learn more about Tosh. We get an understanding of how self-conscious she is and how she just wants the rest of the team to like her, but she gets the impression that they don't. And I don't blame her, to be honest. But yeah, I feel nothing really towards this episode. It's just more bonking. So I'm going to put this episode in okay. They keep killing Suzie. Oh snap! Torchwood are back to take over another crime scene.
Tell me something, are you always this dressy for a murder investigation?
What, you rather me naked?
Ugh, God, it's so cheesy, isn't it? So, there's been a super bad murder, and Torchwood is written across the walls in blood. Who could have done this?
Uh-oh, we're in trouble. Compound B67. He's got retcon in his blood.
Oh no, not Compound B67 in his blood. I don't know what the hell that means. So yes, the murderer has this Compound B67 in his blood, which is the ingredient of the amnesia pill, meaning that someone from Torchwood has given him one. So the gang use the Infinity Gauntlet to bring the murder victim back to life so they can question him on who did this.
Quickly, what was his name?
Max. My name is Max.
Oh no, not Max! A man then reveals that the woman behind this is Suzie. We then find out that when a member of Torchwood passes, Torchwood keeps all of their stuff in a storage unit. So they go through all of Suzie's stuff and they find out that she's a member of this group called Pilgrim, the group that's believed to be behind all of this. So they have to bring Suzie back from the deads. However, Gwen uses so much power, it's brought her back to life permanently.
There's not much point. Susie's dead.
No, according to your equipment, she's just unconscious.
She's alive. Susie's still alive. Look at her. She's bloody breathing.
One thing I am surprised about is how she still has cognitive ability. You have a huge hole inside of your brain. It turns out that Suzie was dosing this Max guy with the amnesia pill every week for 2 years. So now he's gone mental and is trying to game end everyone.
I wanted someone to talk to. About this place. It was driving me mad.
There's this really poor nightclub sequence where they find this Max guy and take him back to the base. It turns out he gets really triggered every time he hears the word Torchwood.
Torchwood.
Suzie and Gwen in the meantime have a little bonding session. However, it turns a bit sour when Suzie says that Gwen is just a replacement, and Gwen gets offended by this. But Suzie justifies it by saying that she was also sleeping with Owen.
Have you slept with Owen? There you go, replace me completely.
Jesus. Is there any woman in Cardiff that this man has not slipped his love gun into? So Gwen's really cross now, so she goes to Jack and says,
Did you ever think what that glove would do to her? Did you?
But Jack is like, nuh-uh.
We're both responsible.
I can't take responsibility. I'm Captain Jack, and I love lasagna. But based on the CCTV footage, we discover that Suzie is actually draining the life out of Gwen. So Jack says the gang has to game end her right away. Except Gwen has gone and taken Suzie for a little drive, hasn't she? They've disappeared. So the gang decide to try and stop them, but the Torchwood base then gets put into lockdown.
What the hell?
It turns out that Suzie had planned all of this long before she died. So Jack decides to ask the police for help, but the police just sit there laughing at them for locking themselves in their own base.
Locked in our base and we can't get out.
The fact that Torchwood saunters up to every crime scene to take over has now come back to bite them in the arse, and now the police get to laugh at them. I like that. The tension builds as the life slowly starts to drain from Gwen. The police help Jack find the verbal trigger to unlock the base, and they finally get out. Owen says that they've only got minutes to save Gwen.
Owen, how long we got?
Minutes.
Before cutting to the very next shot where it's broad daylight because the sun has risen and it's the next morning. Okay, but just as Suzie is about to escape... Jesus Christ! It doesn't work though, so they have to destroy the glove to break the connection. Damn, all it took was one gunshot to break the glove. If only someone had thought of this in the first place. But hey, Gwen is fine and the day is saved. Yanto and Jack then decide to bonk each other. Of course, it's Torchwood. You can't have a single episode without one of them hooking up at least. However, this episode does end on this brilliant line.
That's the thing about gloves, sir. They come in pairs.
Oh my god, that's so ominous. I love it! I really like the exploration of existentialism in this episode, with Suzie having a crisis, explaining that death is just complete darkness. The premise is absolutely brilliant, having Suzie draining the life out of Gwen, and Gwen slowly being the one that has the shot in her head. Oh, top notch. The editing is toned down, and the cinematography is 10 times better. Someone in the production team found the tripod, thank you. And that chilling final line is just 10 out of 10. It is still somewhat flawed with some strange moments, especially this slow motion sequence. I don't know what that's about. But all in all, this is a pretty great episode. So I'm going to be putting this episode in great. Random shoes.
Torchwood. Outside the government, beyond the police.
So then, this is me, Eugene Jones.
Oh no, oh no, please. Just as I was praising the show for picking itself up, this episode comes along. It's in the same style as Love and Monsters. A weedy London bloke enthusiastically narrating his boring backstory of how he ended up in this situation, with an underlying obsession with the main characters of the show. Yuck. This was released the same year as Love and Monsters as well. They didn't even give it a break. So yeah, this guy is not alive anymore, but his presence is still around and he's just invisible.
Am I dead? Am I dead? Am I dead?
Yes, you're fucking dead. You're bloody dead, mate.
Every story's got a beginning.
Oh, I cannot be arsed for this. Boring backstory. He's a little maths nerd. But oh wait, his teacher has an alien eye thing and gives it to him. His name's Eugene, by the way. Christ. Then David Bowie starts playing with this absolutely terrible CGI sequence.
I waited.
They even tried to do the Mr. Blue Sky thing. I absolutely hate it. It cuts back to when he was alive and it's just him stalking Torchwood, failing to get their attention because he's a bumbling idiot. So whilst the Torchwood team are looking through his house, his mum is in absolute bits, and Eugene's reaction to her being broken is so strange.
I'm sorry, but I've got to go.
He doesn't seem at all bothered by the fact that he's dead, just because he's excited to be in the Torchwood base.
I am in heaven.
Christ, what an unlikable guy. So Gwen does some investigating, I guess. It's basically just people not really caring that Eugene's dead.
He was killed in a road accident.
Oh, that's bad. Sweet guy.
But it turns out that Eugene tried selling his alien eye thing on eBay, and someone bidded on it for 15 grand.
Oh my God, Eugene, you're rich.
Sorry, love, no, he just isn't though, is he? He's just not rich. So they mumble on some more, and Gwen goes to this black hole convention thing, in which Eugene says,
Black holes and antimatter were pretty important to me and Gary. But I know who I'd rather be with.
Gary was your best friend, but just because you fancy Gwen, you'd rather be with her. Listen, I know the intention of the episode is that he's a bit of a loser, but seriously, we have to put up with this guy for nearly an hour. At least Elton was trying to do some good. This guy is just a pathetic arse. I'm being really mean, actually. Jesus. But it turns out his best friend Gary was the one that hiked the bidding, just to cheer Eugene up.
My alien, he couldn't contact me any other way, so he chose eBay or cyberspace.
No wonder you got hit by a car. This man sounds ridiculous. Eugene spends the whole episode talking like Gwen can hear him, and he doesn't ever quite seem to get the point that she can't.
I love you. I love you. I love you.
I'm sorry, what? It turns out the people he was selling the eye to was Gary and the DVD man.
I'm meeting the alien. We are the alien, man.
So to stop them from stealing it from him, he eats it. Of course he does. What else would he do? This whole episode was a long-winded way of telling us that this dweeb, who's obsessed with Torchwood, ate a prosthetic eye. All of that, and the car didn't even hit him that hard. That's no way he would have died from that. I'm sorry. Then somehow at the end, he saves Gwen from being hit by a car and then descends into heaven. Oh my god.
Eugene, please don't go now.
The average life is full of near misses and absolute hits.
What on earth have I just spent the last hour watching? Oh my god, that sucked! The story is not only boring, it's completely pointless. Eugene is completely unlikable and borderline creepy. Why Gwen even took such an interest to this in the first place, because it was such a crap investigation. It was just flat out shit, I can't lie. An episode called Random Shoes turning out to be complete arse? Wow, what a shock! This episode is a prime example of the quality inconsistency of this show. I hate this episode, and I never want to watch it again. So slap it in god awful, please. Out of time. A plane from 1953 has landed in the present day. Oh, this could be interesting. So the gang take them to Torchwood and basically tell them that there's no way back.
Then how do we get back?
You don't.
And then they start telling them how their families died.
Your father died in 1959. He was 48.
That's just really lovely, guys. Jesus. They don't seem at all bothered by the fact that they're never going to see their families again, by the way. However, the sequence in which Yanto takes them to Asda is brilliant.
Good God. There's children around. She's a children's TV presenter.
You really realise how much time has changed in 53 years. Technology really accelerated. Look at now. 53 years ago was 1972. And just think of how different the 70s were to the 50s. And the smoking kills joke is top notch.
You alright?
What does that mean?
Even the little details to show how they're in such a different time, like ripping the tea bags, it's just brilliant. Uh-oh, Owen has been left alone with attractive 1950s pilot lady. I wonder if he'll end up sleeping with... Of course he does. Obviously. It's so weird to me that even in Torchwood in 2006, people are just commonly smoking indoors. I cannot imagine what that was like. So yeah, the sex scenes in this episode are really uncomfortable, I'm not going to lie. However, there is this incredibly beautiful scene in which John goes to see his son, but he's suffering with Alzheimer's. It's performed just beautifully.
When's Dad coming, Mum?
The pilot lady's really upset that she can't fly planes in the modern day without a license, so Owen buys her a dress. It's obviously common knowledge, when a woman is sad, you buy them a sexy dress, because that's just what they want, of course. It leads to them bonking some more. It's really uncomfortable. It's really uncomfortable. However, John can't deal with the fact that his wife has passed and his son is in a nursing home, so he tries to game end himself. Jack does save him and explains to him that when you pass, it just goes dark. He will not be reunited with his wife.
Because I want to die.
You don't get reunited, John. Just goes black.
How do you know?
Jesus, it's a really harrowing and thought-provoking scene. Owen confesses his feelings for Pilot Lady, letting us know that he does have a romantic side. This is the first time seeing Owen being pretty vulnerable. Jack then decides to help John take his life and comforts him whilst he does it. It really does show the effect of Jack's immortality as he sat there fully conscious, watching the whole thing unfold as the carbon monoxide fumes surround him. Jesus Christ! So each one of them, one by one, leave. Diane flies off as Owen pleads for her to stay, but she thinks, nah fam, I'm out. Other girl who I've not really spoken about in this episode because her story really sucks goes off to London, and John's obviously in the car, and that is the end of that. I really enjoy this episode. It's thought-provoking, it's really bloody sad, and again focuses on the element of what happens after death. Owen was more vulnerable as we see him actually gain feelings for someone who in return treats him the same way he would treat another woman. I suppose this is him getting a taste of his own medicine. John's story in this episode is just heartbreaking. It's the most believable and grounded of all of the characters. And as I said, the worst part of this story was this girl, and the stuff that she gets up to with Gwen is fine, but it's nothing really great. The only good thing about that subplot was the fact that it caused confrontation with Reese when he finds out that she was lying.
What worries me is how easy it seems to be for you to lie to me, Gwen.
It's a really stripped back episode with no CGI. We don't even see the plane coming through the rift. I would assume this is for budgetary reasons, but I like that. It's just a great story about 3 people who have come out of their timeline and there is no way back. The episode has no resolution. It's brilliant. I love it. So yes, I'm going to be putting this episode in great combat. So yeah, I have absolutely zero recollection of this episode whatsoever. The episode starts with Jack fighting this weevil, juxtaposed with Gwen having this really boring date with Reese. Reese is expressing his frustration with Gwen being so distant all the time.
I'm chopsing away, I look up and you're just absent. What's happening to us, Gwen?
I know, I'm sorry.
And the appearance of Jack then proves his point as you see her face light up when he arrives. Reese understandably gets pretty pissed off by this.
Hey, hold on, son, that's my girlfriend.
Reese, this is Jack.
Sit down, Gwen.
He's my boss.
Sit the fuck down!
Get this, Gwen then says,
Reese will get over it. He always does.
wow, further showing how much Gwen takes Reese for granted. He's a good guy, and you are just not very nice, Gwen. You're not very nice at all. We then see this group of masked thugs kidnap this weevil. Uh-oh, aliens are being nabbed. Wait, hang on a minute. This episode was written by Noel Clarke? Ew, why? Owen is still grieving over the fact that his pilot girlfriend ditched him, so he gets into a fight with random man. We then learn that these weevils have telepathic abilities that cause them to feel other weevils' pain, so this weevil is just howling.
I think it's weeping. Why?
Ugh, it's just awful. It looks terrible, man. In fact, all of this episode looks truly awful. This series budget is really starting to show. Haven't we already had multiple budget saver episodes? But for some reason, this episode looks the worst. So the gang then do some investigating, and they find this unalived man in a warehouse, where Jack has this ominous phone call.
I don't know who you are, but stay out of what doesn't concern you.
Who killed this man?
Did you hear what I just said?
Owen then says he's bored of Gwen and they're over, so she throws a little tantrum.
You can be such a wanker sometimes, Owen, do you know that?
I do, as a matter of fact.
So they decide that Owen needs to go undercover. This is where he meets Man from Rivals and very obviously hacks his computer literally right in front of him. Tosh has made an entire website to help Owen be undercover, where they even had time to film this fake advert.
To Britain and Northern Europe, with a client base of more than 150 resellers.
I don't know when this was done, because Gwen is sitting in the exact same place since Owen left, and Tosh is wearing the exact same clothes. When did this happen? So in order to find these kidnappers, the Torchwood gang use one of their own weevils as bait. And whilst Owen is going for a drink with Rivals Man, he gets into another fight. It looks terrible. It looks so bad. We then get the sequence in which Gwen breaks the news to Reese that she's been having an affair.
I've been sleeping. I've been having sex with someone else from work. His name's Owen.
But just to top it off, she's drugged him, of course.
And because I've drugged you, it's just an amnesia pill. Dasha said if you'll wake up tomorrow and you'll forget everything.
Wow, Gwen, you are just awful. Owen then finds a locked room in which Rivals Man has been storing his very own weevil. Anyway, it turns out that Rivals Man hosts a fight club for rich people to let out all of their suppressed anger. Oh, God, it must be so hard being a super rich man. So all these rich men have the opportunity to fight the weevil, where Owen is then forced to get into the cage himself.
Get in the cage.
So then Torch would come in, Owen gets bitten, and then because Rivals Man's been caught, he then gets himself eaten, all off screen.
He did it to himself. He had no fear.
Do you know what? I don't know. This episode bloody sucks. It's so bad. How is it all episodes with aliens in this series are the worst ones? It's just cheap, boring, completely ridiculous, and the continuity in this episode is all over the place. The only thing I liked in this episode was Reese's outburst, alright? It's definitely not the worst episode, but it isn't good in any way, alright? I'm putting this episode in stinky. Captain Jack Harkness. Jack and Tosh are off to investigate an abandoned dance hall after complaints of hearing 1940s music.
Listen.
You
coming up?
They walk up the stairs, and hey-ho, they're in the 1940s.
It's a simple tempo shift.
Of course. After Jack soaks up the nostalgia, they actually try and leave, but oh no, they're still stuck in the 1940s. The rest of the gang eventually notice their disappearance, so Gwen goes to investigate. You'll notice that Gwen's not in this episode very much because she was shooting that horrible, horrible episode from before. Just gross, man. Also, loving the little Vote Saxon posters all over the doors and things. Lovely, just lovely bit of continuity there. You just don't get it today. Love it. Jack gets into a little altercation with a man that's dancing with Tosh. This is when handsome army boy steps in.
I'm Captain Jack Harkness, 133rd Squadron.
What's the crud? Jack reveals to Tosh that the soldier hasn't taken his name, but in fact, it was the other way round. So Jack needs to find a way back. So it turns out there is this equation that can open the rift. One half of it is in the Torchwood base, and the other half is on Tosh's laptop. Of course it is.
Your battery is running low.
Can you read that?
What laptop shouts out that your battery is low? Yes, you might get a little ding 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 noise, but no laptop actually says it to you. I get it's to tell the audience, but could a simple shot of the low battery symbol not have been enough? So Tosh tries to write down the equation before her laptop dies, but this is when a mysterious old manager man walks in. It cuts back to Gwen and, oh, the manager man is there too.
Phyllis Manger at your service.
Hello.
Yanto's a smart boy. He scans photos from the past and discovers that the manager man is the same person. This is where they realise that this is one big trap. I will say, I do like the fact that we're seeing Yanto being a bit more hands-on. I don't know where this change came from. He went from scooping up rubbish to now being part of the team. Turns out him having his little tantrums actually worked. It's also interesting to see Tosh getting a frosty reception and some backlash by some of the people at the party due to the fact that she is Japanese. This is World War II after all. However, Captain Jack Harkness and Captain Jack Harkness help put a stop to this. So during this episode, we're introduced to real Captain Jack's girlfriend, and he's all like, I'll see you later, I'm chilling with the boys. I'm chilling with the boys, fam. And our Jack doesn't like that very much, so he tells him to go and kiss her goodbye, because you never know when your last day is going to be. Except that our Jack does know when Jack's last day is going to be, because he dies tomorrow. That's the whole point of this episode, basically. But there's also this sense of regret on Jack's face, almost as if he's missed an opportunity to say goodbye to someone before. Interesting. So Tosh knows she's got to set up this little treasure hunt so that the gang in the present day can help find the equation. So she hides some of the equation in this box. Oh, and Gwen happens to find it super easily, by the way. I get it. The building's abandoned. But are you telling me that in 65 years, no one has been in that box and the electrics have not been updated since the 40s at all? Seriously? However, this is only part of the equation. Tosh needs to find a way to hide the rest of it, so she cuts herself with a rusty can. And she writes it in her blood as well. That's just lovely, isn't it? Yum yum. Owen tried to use the rift manipulator machine thing earlier in the episode, but it has a missing piece. However, Owen finds it hidden in creepy old man's clock. And also, Gwen then happens to find that exact same can with the hidden notes in. I sort of realise as I'm saying that, in hindsight, the old man wants Gwen to find the equation, doesn't he? These sort of sarky comments from me are not valid. Captain Jack tries to get real Jack to be with this woman. However, real Jack has other things on his mind. Owen finds what he needs to open up the rift, but Yanto tries to stop him. This isn't great, to be honest. Yanto shoots Owen in an attempt to stop him, but to no avail, the rift is open. Jack and Jack have a little dance and a smooch, but the rift opens and Jack and Gwen return back home. So, my thoughts. This episode does everything Rogue failed to do with Rogue and the Doctor. We actually learn a lot about the real Jack and his incredibly sad story. And we learn more about his underlying feelings in regards to his sexuality. We learn more about Jack's past and how he became Captain Jock Cheesecake. This episode focuses on the fact that this war hero was more afraid of embracing his sexuality than fighting in any war. And he does embrace it when he gives Jack a big old smoochy woochy. I like that everyone in this episode was involved in some way or another and had a purpose. The concept of this episode, very simple, but very timey-wimey, communicating through time. I like it. However, I do think little conveniences take me out of the story sometimes, and I really do think this episode is massively overhyped. Oh my god. It's definitely really good, do not get me wrong, but it's not near the levels of Out of Time or CountryCide, in my opinion. So I am putting this episode in good. Also, I was going to criticise the fact that this episode felt like it was left a little unfinished. Turns out it was. Owen opening the rift is going to have some serious consequences, leading us directly into the series finale. End of days. So here we are, the final episode of Series 1, written by Chris Chibnall. Oh my god. Knowing this man's track record of series finales, this is going to be an absolute train wreck. The episode starts with Owen and Reese all loved up. I'm just happy to see that Owen and Gwen have finally stopped, because if you actually deep it, their little affair was absolutely useless. All of the events of this series would have played out exactly the same if Owen and Gwen never had their affair. So why was it in here in the first place? Please explain. Jack calls Gwen and tells her to put on the news, where we see some CGI UFOs over some stock images of landmarks. It turns out that Owen opening the rift has cataclysmic consequences. There's some really good confrontation between Jack and Owen. Owen confronting Jack about the fact that he saved his life. And yes, it has had consequences, but there's no point blaming him. Let's bloody fix it.
You can't control time. You can't send them back. What are you gonna do?
Well, think of something.
Owen is called to the hospital where he sees patients infected with the Black Plague. You see genuine fear in Owen.
It's the fucking Black Death, Tosh. She's infected Cardiff A&E with the plague.
You can see that he becomes a bit of a dick in situations where he's frightened or put under pressure, but this sequence is pretty terrifying. Us in the modern day will never know what it was like to experience the Black Plague, so to see patients lying there in modern day is pretty harrowing. Tosh's mum then appears to say some really cryptic shit and then just disappears. And then this mysterious man appears to say he's sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
And of course, Yanto is going to see his cyber lady girlfriend because, Chris Chibnall just needed to fit her in one more time. The confrontation between Jack and Owen continues as Owen starts saying, "Hey, who the hell are you, Captain Jack? Who are you, brother?
Who the fuck are you, anyway? Jack Harkness?"
You can see that Jack's ego is a little bit hurt, so he fires Owen.
Get out.
What?
Get out! I'm relieving you of your duty.
Everything in this episode has been set up brilliantly so far. We've got super high stakes, we've had really good conflict, we've had ominous visions, lots has been set up. Does this sound familiar? So Gwen and Jack go to confront the mysterious manager man, where he explains that the only way to fix this is to fully open the rift. Mysterious man then gives Gwen a glimpse into the future, and we see that Reese has been a super silly boy and he's been smearing jam all over the walls, and then he's had a long nap. Oh, Reese, no wonder you're having a nap. You must be tired from all of that. I don't even know why you lot subscribe sometimes. So to avoid the future, Gwen goes home and tases him. This poor fella, honestly, he has done nothing but housework this series, and he's been cheated on, drugged, and tased. Obviously, in Gwen's defence, it makes sense. She's trying to protect him, so she puts him in a cell in the Torchwood base. But little does Gwen know, the mysterious man steps into his cell and daggers him. I will say this scene was shot brilliantly, by the way. The flickering lights, the sinister look, the screeching violins. Perfect. Gwen obviously loses it. So Owen's going to step up and he says, "I'm going to open the rift." Despite Jack being a dick at times, he knows that this bilious manager man is up to no good, but the gang have turned against him.
Because you're so in love with Reese that you spend half your time in Owen's bed.
Fuck you!
Right, I mean, it is out of pocket, but I mean, he is right. It's true. This ends up with Jack getting game ended, of course. And yeah, everything in this episode has been so brilliant so far, and this is where it goes absolutely tits up. Editing goes completely out of the window. Loads of choppy, slow motion shots start happening all over the place for some reason. The rift is open. They go down this alleyway where Billis is just stood there for some reason.
He is come.
Come.
Come to feast on life.
What in the living shit is that? Oh my god. Gets so much work. They keep showing it, man. They keep showing it. It's hurting my eyes. Abaddon, the bringer of death. Pfft, more like Abaddon, the bringer of shame to any visual effects artist. Jesus Christ. We then watch Jack get scared of his own shadow. He then starts getting sucked, which then just game ends this beast. thing. What is this? This is truly one of the worst things I've ever seen. This epic battle is Jack flailing around in his own shadow while a CGI beast thing screams a little bit. And everything, by the way, is just reset. It's just reset. Just put back to normal like it's nothing. That is the most Chibnall ending I've ever seen. So Jack is deceased, but we obviously know this isn't going to be the case for long.
Thank you.
The gang are all super happy to see him, and I will say the reaction from Owen almost made me a little emotional.
I forgive you.
We all saw people we loved. What did you see?
Nothing.
Damn, that's really sad. But this has been the focus this whole series. Jack has no one, and I think this is why he takes it so badly when anyone goes against him. Gwen says, "What vision would have convinced you to open the rift?" And Jack responds with,
The right kind of doctor.
Hell yeah! The TARDIS is coming in for landing. Oh my god, intertwining with Doctor Who Series 3 perfectly. However, I don't understand how all the pages and stuff are blowing inside the base when the TARDIS is landing up on the surface. Makes no sense. But Jack has disappeared, thus concluding the end of Series 1. Do you know what? I actually would have been happy with this episode if it ended with the rift opening just to reset everything, right? Don't get me wrong, it would still be a completely shit resolution and would make no sense. However, it would make more sense than whatever we just witnessed, to be honest. Also, I need to point out, when Jack goes out to that open space, how did this Abaddon fella divert his attention to Jack and not the hundreds of thousands of people, you know, right below him? The quote-unquote battle between Abaddon and Jack is so hilariously awful. An obscenely designed CGI bulldog looking at a man screaming in his own shadow. And genuinely, that is not even me dumbing it down. The CGI devil thing wasn't even mentioned until after the rift was open. It just feels like Chris Chibnall just crammed this in because writing a smarter way to conclude the episode takes way too much thought, and Chibnall doesn't have that. It's so annoying because everything up to the rift was pretty damn good. The fact that the gang are so sure that Jack is completely gone as well makes no sense, considering they have witnessed him coming back to life literally 20 minutes ago. It's lucky that the episode ends on a pretty solid note, because the last 10 minutes was enough to completely destroy this episode for me. I genuinely thoroughly enjoyed this episode right up until the rift opened. The stakes were super high, the conflict between the group was gripping, and Reese's death scene was pretty damn good. I was hella invested. But the climax, of course, crumbled this story apart. This episode was a massive telltale sign of what was to come for his Chibnall era. What a bloody letdown. But hey guys, as we all know, that's Chris Chibnall for you. The good parts of this episode are enough to put this episode in okay, and that really pains me because I have to admit I did enjoy some of it, so it has to go in okay. Fucking stupid. Well, it doesn't get more inconsistent than that. This series was all over the place. Now, I could give it some slack in the fact that, you know, it's a new show. It's just trying to find its ground. But some moments in this series were inexcusable. The over-reliance of being overly sexual just because the show is intended for adults got boring insanely quick. And I genuinely can't remember if they tone this down or not in future series. We'll have to wait and see. And as I've said before, the best episodes of this series were the ones with no alien involvement. CountryCide, Out of Time, They Keep Killing Suzie, Captain Jack Harkness. They were the standouts of the series, and none of them had a quote-unquote alien threat. And how can that be for a sci-fi show about a gang that stops aliens? I love when the show toys with darker themes and felt like it needed to do a little bit more of that. I don't care about cheap-looking Weevil running around Cardiff. I want to see the darker effects that the rift has on the world. Isn't that the point of the show being for adults? But hey, at least the foundations of the new show have been set, and hopefully they have learned their mistakes going into Series 2. I hope so. But guys, thank you for joining me as I return to Torchwood Series 1 to see whether or not it was any good. Do you agree with my rankings? Do you not agree? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, if you've made it to the end and you did enjoy, please do leave a like. It massively helps. And of course, subscribe to the channel. We've got the rest of Torchwood, Sarah Jane and Doctor Who to come. I'm super excited. And also, if you want to support the channel so I can spend more time making these videos, you can become a member today. You can do that via the description. I will return very soon for the Sarah Jane Adventures Series 2 review, and until then, you can join me on my second channel, DTDW Reacts, for more frequent uploads. Other than that, guys, thank you for watching, and I will see you later.